Hello and welcome to a tutorial for how to build a basic self-powered oxygen machine. This should last you a long while until you have to build either another one or a more efficient one for the amount of duplicates you have. This one should support up to 10 easily, if not more. I've had it support up to 15 just fine. So the first step is to find a cold biome, which I have right here. And let's get started. So we're obviously making a path over to the cold biome, which is slow work, but you want to have it pretty high up because this is going to be a very tall machine. So you want it to be wrapped in insulated tile with igneous rock, and you want it to be exactly 14 across. If you have it a little bit bigger, that's no big deal, but the most efficient size for this is 14 across for those igneous tiles. Igneous rock insulated tiles. My apologies. And there's 14 right there. And we're using the, what is that called? Neutronium on the side as kind of a wall because that will never overheat, so we don't have to worry about that. So now the next step is building the side walls, which first you want insulated tile and manual airlocks, that way the dupes can get in and out as they're building. So you want one manual airlock, then one insulated tile, then one manual airlock, and then you want 1, 2, 3 insulated tiles, and then you want another manual airlock. I almost forgot that I needed space for them to go down. And then you want 1, 2, and then another manual airlock right there. And then 1, 2, and then all the way across. So this is the basic outline of it. And make sure to build a ladder down so your duplicates can access it. Now I built a little lower, that way as all of your stuff starts melting, because it will start to melt with the duplicates walking by and with the machine starting, it provides a nice little sink. So now you want to get to the next part. I went ahead and put a heavy watt joint plate right there because that's going to combine all of your machines. Then you can use tile. You don't have to use insulated tile for this because it's generally not going to overheat because the hydrogen generators don't really produce that much heat, especially with the hydrogen coming in to cool them down. You do want a layer of insulated tile though in between the hydrogen generators and what's eventually going to be your oxygen hydrogen generating machines. You want airflow tiles to put your electrolyzers on. I do 4 on each side, because you're going to have 2 electrolyzers on each side. And then, after some deliberation, I'm going to put more igneous rock in. Not igneous rock, good lord, insulated tiles in. Eventually. Come on, Tess. Come on. Stop blinking and just get it going. Yes, insulated tile. I said insulated tile. And you're going to build like a little bucket. And this is where your hydrogen pump is going to go. But that way it's so the hydrogen can build up a little bit better. That way you're not pumping any oxygen into your hydrogen generators because that's really bad. So you can see I added another layer of insulation just to buffer, make sure that none of the heat seeps in upstairs. Now I made a big mistake, as you're going to see. I had the digging the same priority as the building. You do this, your duplicates are going to die because they're idiots. Yep, that's just how it goes sometimes. But what are you gonna do? Dupes have the brains of 4-year-olds, apparently. So this is me figuring out the priorities, making sure that I have my digging set to a lower priority. Ultimately, what I've learned from this is you don't even have the digging on there at all except to access your building stuff. That is what I heavily would recommend. Learn from my mistakes. Don't have to reload and save SPOM and do all that stuff. Just don't have the digging as a priority until everything is built. So now they're chugging along. And as you can see in just a minute, if I remember correctly, Travaldo over here, or is that Steve? Yeah, that's Steve. No, it was Travaldo. I was right. Travaldo's going to put himself in a little bit of a situation where he's going to go up. No, it was Steve after all. Steve's going to start digging. He's going to trap himself once again. And this is because, as I said, you don't want to have the digging even as an option for them, not until you have everything built. So this was a hard lesson for me. I kept it in the video anyways because isn't oxygen not included all about learning from your mistakes? That's what I think anyways. So I realized what I've done wrong, not the building part, just I try to adjust the priorities yet again. I realized that poor Steve is not going to make it in time, so we're just going to try it again. You got to be smarter than your dupes, fam. You've got to be smarter than your dupes. And here we go. We're trying again. Third time's the charm. Not so much. And this is me trying to compensate by making the building as the highest priority you can. Oh wait, actually no, what I was doing is making it to where the outside was a higher priority. That way you wouldn't have to worry about it. So now once your stuff is finally built and no dupes have died, thankfully, hopefully, you go ahead and you sweep and mop. That way you can make sure that your dupes have no reason to go inside. Now you place your vents. I do 3 on each side. That's going to provide your oxygen. And then eventually I'm going to place one more up top. This is where I realized I made it a little big because I didn't realize the neutronium was going to mess up my counting, but that's okay. If it's one tile too wide, it's one tile too wide, that's fine. So we're going to get those going, and we're going to go ahead and get our hydrogen generators down. This is going to be what powers your self-powered oxygen machine because obviously electrolyzers produce hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is going to go to your dupes, and we need a place for the hydrogen, and powering it with hydrogen generators is exactly what is the best move. So you do 3 up top, combine them with heavy watt wire. You need a smart battery, which I realized I was out of refined metal for stuff. As you can see, because I'm trying to build one more hydrogen generator, and then I realized I need my large power transformers, which I did not have enough refined metal for. So, moral of the story is, make sure you have enough refined metal before you get started with this. Either that or just have that rock crusher ready to go. So you want 2 of these large power transformers. You want them situated as such. Now the gas pipes. So you're going to put them in pairs, not all at once, because if you put them all at once, they're just going to clog up. Because eventually your base is going to fill with hydrogen, and these aren't going to be pumping constantly. So you want to make it as efficient as possible. So you do the first ones kind of like that, and then you do the next set a little something like this, and then you do the last set a little something not like this, but like this. Now the next step, I would heavily recommend you pump the gas pipes through your cold biome to cool it down. That way it is cooling your base while providing oxygen. especially if you don't have weeds warts available, which produces radiation anyways if you have the DLC. I'm going to build the hydrogen line now. Now the reason I have that bridge down there at the end is because it's going to output in 2 spots. So the first output is going to go up, snaking up through the thing, 1 to cool it down, and 2 to get through all the hydrogen generators. And then the other side, there will eventually be another pipe out that will go to a hydrogen generator as a sink, because eventually this is going to completely fill up with hydrogen. And when it fills up with hydrogen, your machine's going to stop working, and that's very bad. So we've got our pumps in place. This is me trying to work on snaking it up through the cold biome. Yes, I have a cat in my lap. Her name is Marie, and she is a fluffy butt, and I love her to death. So once you get all that set up and you got your wires, do heavy watt wires to connect the rest of the generators, and you want the conductive wire because those run at a little higher power. They require refined metal, so make sure again that you have enough. And you want them to be arranged something like this. That way you've got 1 power transformer on each side. You're not going to overheat or overdo your circuits. Now next you got to get water in because it requires clean water, well, regular water, to power the electrolyzers. Do not mix up your pipes and do polluted water, because all it's going to do is break everything, and that is never any fun. I have also learned that the hard way. So make sure your pipes are not spaghettis. That is something that I've been learning through these playthroughs. You want your pipes to be as efficient as possible. You want them to be organized. And now, as you can see, I am piping it through the electrolyzers like so. Alright, next we are going to do the automation. You want atmos sensors and you want a gas element sensor. So you want your atmos sensors, you want 3 of them all together. And you want a gas sensor and you want an AND gate. Now the AND gate, you want to connect the atmos sensor and the gas element sensor to. That way the machine knows to pump only when there's hydrogen in the area and enough pressure in the area. So I have all my atmos sensors pressurized for 1,000 or above. At first with the hydrogen one, I'll have it pressurized to 1,500 or above. That way I make sure it fills up with hydrogen. Now obviously you don't need the gas element sensors for the oxygen ones because that's really all it's going to be in. And if it pumps a little carbon dioxide at first, that's absolutely fine. It'll just pump the carbon dioxide to your base. Now I'm just checking to make sure everything's okay. Now you might run into this little problem. As you can see, I've got a little X and it looks like everything is facing the wrong direction. Now, if you run into this, don't fret. All you gotta do is follow your gas pipes, because chances are, if you follow it, you're just gonna see that you made one little mistake of not making sure everything is built like I did. Which is an easy fix, thankfully. So once you do that, it is time to get everything good to go. You want to make sure your doors are closed if you have them automatically open. Go ahead and get you a couple of manual generators, like so. Use some conductive wire. And you only have to power up one side, because once you get one side powered up, it is absolutely fine. It'll power up the other side eventually. Again, make sure your atmos sensors are set for above. And I have the hydrogen above 1,500 at least at first. Once it gets going, if you want to lower it down to 1,000, you can. I just kept mine at 1,500 just to make things easier. If you notice hydrogen starts really seeping in, then lower it to 1,000. You probably want 2 manual generators to start it off, just because 1 manual generator is not enough. So now, this is me just kind of fumbling with it. Now, you're probably going to have some wrong element damage at first. That's okay as long as you got extra metal. It will eventually equalize itself out. Just like as you can see with my oxygen pumps, there is some carbon dioxide being pumped out. Again, that's fine as long as you just have ways to compensate for that. Which carbon dioxide is pretty easy to mess with. Just get a carpet skimmer or whatever you want to do with it. Just let them run, and eventually, as you can see, the hydrogen generator is powering up this stuff. Make sure you have your smart battery set to a high threshold of 99 and a low threshold of 20. The 99, I learned from somebody else, there's a certain reason, efficiency-wise, that you do that. And then the low threshold, you obviously don't want it to get all the way to 0 because then it'll just stop working altogether. I find 20 is a good number. If you want to do 25, that's all on you. There's nothing wrong with it. But once you get it going, you get the hydrogen generators going and repaired, hopefully, you'll see that it's a self-powering oxygen machine. You can get rid of the wheels, and as long as you've built it correctly, you will never have to touch it again. Now, eventually what I do is I use that brine saltwater geyser up there to pump down into the room to cool down the oxygen, to help cool it down anyways. Now you can lock it, but I have found it's easier on duplicate access permissions to just unclick both sides of the arrows. That way they don't have to come and manually lock it. But either way, there's no reason for them to go inside. There's nothing to be swept, and there's nothing to be mopped. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, go to twitch.tv/TeslaKitty. The E is a 3. And hopefully I'll see you there.